Welcome back to the deep dive. This is where we take some source material, could be anything really, papers, articles, notes, and we pull out the interesting stuff, the useful insights, just for you.
Yeah, we try to be your guides, Cut through all the noise and find those valuable little nuggets.
And today we've got a pretty interesting source actually. It's excerpts from a YouTube video transcript from an English-speaking course channel. Now that might sound, I don't know, a bit basic.
Right, like what can you really get from language drills? Besides, grammar and vocabulary practice.
Exactly. My thought too. But honestly, when we started digging into these little stories, these vignettes embedded in the lessons, we realized they're just packed with these broader lessons. Lessons about, dealing with challenges, adapting when things get tough, and maybe surprising ways we grow.
So our mission, I guess, for this deep dive is to look past the obvious language stuff and see these scenarios for what they really are, which is relatable human experiences. They hold these universal insights, right? About perseverance, navigating rules, finding support.
And the power of working together on things. Yeah.
Definitely.
So we're going to explore three main scenarios from this source material. First, there's someone learning a new language, dealing with setbacks. Then, someone living with a surprisingly strict landlord.
Oh yeah, that one's something.
And finally, a couple who decide to, tackle their weaknesses as a team. They seem simple on the surface, but there's quite a lot going on underneath.
Okay, let's jump in then. First up, this story about Millie learning English.
Okay, yeah, this one really hits you with that feeling, when you're starting something totally new and feel vulnerable. Millie's new to the class, new to English, and the source describes her feeling just really sad and embarrassed.
And you see why straight away. The transcript shows these moments where other people are reacting to her mistakes. Like someone saying, oh, come on, it's just a few simple phrases, and even, this is so funny. Yeah, and someone else is like, I'm trying my best not to laugh. And you hear Millie also saying she's trying not to laugh, which just makes that feeling of being watched, of being exposed, so much worse. You just want to disappear.
Oh, totally. That feeling is universal, isn't it? Trying something new and feeling like everyone's judging you. But what really stands out here is how quickly support shows up. The teacher, for one.
Right, the teacher jumps in pretty quickly with things like, don't worry, you will get used to being here, and take your time. Don't worry, it's fine if you don't know yet.
That immediate sort of safety net, it's so important psychologically. It basically says, hey, mistakes are okay here.
Exactly. And later, when Millie does manage to give an answer, the teacher reinforces it. That's a fantastic answer, Millie. That positive feedback, it's like a building block for confidence.
Absolutely. But the support system isn't just the teacher, which is interesting. We also meet Fanny, another student, and she notices Millie looking down and actually reaches out, asks her, you looked a little sad in class. Is everything okay?
And it's not just, oh, that's too bad. She offers practical help. She says, maybe I can help you with it. And that shifts the dynamic, doesn't it? From just classroom encouragement to a real partnership.
Right. It becomes active help. And the source gives us specific examples of how this works. They meet up after school, they do homework together, and it's through these sessions that Millie starts learning concrete things. Like
identifying everyday words, the source mentions cereal, or tackling something really practical like reading the instructions on a medicine box. Keep out of reach of children. Understanding what that means in the real world, that's a big step.
Or that moment in the supermarket, asking for directions. Which, let's be honest, can be intimidating even for native speakers sometimes. Could you show us the way to the baking supplies? That takes real guts when you're feeling unsure.
And they're learning from fun stuff too, like movies. Picking up the word tripped and understanding it means, you lose your balance and stumble.
Yeah, or smelling his coffee. It shows how learning isn't just in the classroom or from a book, it happens everywhere.
My favorite bit, though, is how they break down that sentence from a book. The fearless young explorer went into the unknown jungle. They pull out the key words like fearless, explorer, unknown, and then they put it back together in a way Millie gets. The brave young explorer dared to go into a jungle that no one knew about.
It's just a perfect mini example of how a supportive guide can help you decode something complex, piece by piece.
And you really see the results. Millie says, I think I'm feeling more comfortable with English. She even figures out why Fanny's help is so effective, because it's more fun than studying from a textbook. It's fun, yeah, but it's also varied, it's practical, and crucially, it's consistent. The teacher's final comment, practice makes perfect? Well, that's true. But the real engine driving her progress here seems to be that relationship with Fanny. Millie even says, "You're like a big sister to me."
So if we look at Millie's story, through the lens of this simple language drill source, what's the kind of surprising takeaway it feels like?
Well, even those first stumbling steps in learning something really new, like figuring out what tripped means, they need more than just your own grit.
Right.
They need this whole ecosystem of support. It really highlights how empathy from peers like Fanny and consistent encouragement from authority figures like the teacher can turn that awful feeling of embarrassment into, well, a path for actual growth. It makes you think, doesn't it? Where are you getting or maybe giving that kind of specific practical support when you're tackling something new? That's a really powerful connection. Okay, so shifting gears now. Completely different vibe for the next one. Our next source excerpt throws us into a different kind of challenge, dealing with what seem like really rigid boundaries. This is the story of Layla and her landlord, Mrs. Henderson.
Yeah, Layla's situation isn't what she planned. She thought she'd have her own apartment, but instead she ends up in a spare room with her landlord because her parents worked out some deal. She admits right away it feels a little weird.
And she says she's never lived with someone who wasn't my family before. So it's an immediate adjustment, stepping into someone else's established space.
And then Mrs. Henderson lays down the house rules, and they're pretty extensive.
Yeah, extensive is one word for it. No coming back after 11 p.m. sharp. Absolutely no friends inside ever. Quiet at all times. Any socializing. Not here, dear.
No loud noises after 7 p.m. Even playing music quietly is seen as disruptive. No overnight guests. Obviously, it's a single occupancy space.
And the classic one you mentioned, the 5 minutes Layla rule for the bathroom light. That one really paints a picture.
It really does. And you immediately feel for Layla. The source says she feels like it's more like a prison than a new home. And she feels like she's suffocating.
Yeah, you totally get it. And you see her trying to cope within these tight rules, using headphones for movies, having a virtual movie night with a friend just to get some connection.
She's finding ways to exist, basically, to keep some semblance of her life going, but it sounds pretty grim. But then comes the twist. The thing that makes this more than just a strict landlord story, it happens when Layla gets sick.
Exactly. Mrs. Henderson, the super rigid rule enforcer, sees Layla looking unwell, and her reaction is immediate concern. "You look awful, child."
Not what you'd expect, maybe?
Not at all. And she offers comfort. Chicken noodle soup, always the best cure. And then, this is the key part, she steps right out of that landlord role and into a caregiver one. "Don't you worry about a thing today. You just focus on getting better. I'll take care of things."
Wow. That's a moment of just unexpected humanity, right? It completely cuts through all the strictness we've heard about. And Layla, probably surprised, apologizes for something later. And Mrs. Henderson's reply is really, insightful.
Yeah, she says, everyone needs a little TLC sometimes, even if they don't always follow the rules, which kind of acknowledges the rules exist, but puts care first in that moment. And then she adds this line, which is surprisingly humble, I thought. "Everyone has a lot to learn, Layla, maybe even us old folks."
Wow. Yeah, that adds this layer of self-awareness you wouldn't necessarily predict from the 5 minutes Layla landlord. It suggests maybe her strictness is her way of managing things, but she's also aware that she's, still learning too.
And Layla's final thought just captures that shift perfectly. Maybe this won't be so bad living here after all. The rules haven't vanished, but her perception of the person enforcing them has completely changed.
So what does this scenario, again, from this language learning source, tell us? It's fascinating, isn't it? How navigating these seemingly rigid environments, even one with a 5-minute bathroom timer, can sometimes surprisingly reveal these moments of unexpected kindness, or just nuance in the people setting the boundaries. It really challenges that first judgment, maybe, and suggests that looking beyond the rules to the person behind them can sometimes shift your entire experience of a situation. How do you tend to react when you're faced with situations that feel totally inflexible? And I wonder, are you open to maybe finding some unexpected grace within those constraints?
That's a great question, a real lesson in perspective there. Okay, let's move to our third and final scenario from the source. This one's about a couple, John and his wife, deciding to tackle their personal weaknesses together.
Yeah, this story starts with a really direct approach, almost like a business meeting for self-improvement within their relationship. They literally decide to talk about their weaknesses, so, quote, then we can fix them together. It's framed right away as a joint project.
And they each name something specific. The wife says she's not good at cooking, for sure. Pretty straightforward. And John points to his health, or lack thereof, giving that concrete example. Remember when I moved that table, I couldn't do it alone even though it's not heavy. Using a specific memory like that makes it feel very real.
Absolutely. And their solutions are just as direct. John says he'll exercise more, specifically go to the gym, and his wife agrees she should remind him, kind of be his accountability partner. And the wife says she'll learn to cook, planning to use some cooking channels on YouTube. And John says he'll help out by tasting or assisting sometimes.
What's great, though, is that the source shows them actually doing it, and the struggles that come with it. For John, it's that push to do morning exercise, needing his wife's motivation. It's comparing how long they can hold a plank. She struggles at 20 seconds. He holds for a minute, showing there are different starting points.
Right.
And even that bit about having an unplanned workout by walking home from the supermarket in rush hour because he couldn't pick a car. Life happens, right?
It's not always a neat, planned out path to getting better, is it? And for the wife learning to cook, that first attempt at making lamb is described as a little bit weird. The meat was dry, the sauce a bit too sweet.
But John doesn't just criticize, which is key. He jumps in to help fix it, suggesting a little bit of lemon juice and chilies, which apparently made it so much better. They even tackle something relatively complex, like Eggs Benedict together.
That hands-on collaborative approach seems really important here. It's not just, you go fix your weakness. It's more like, okay, let's figure this out as a team.
Exactly. And here's a really fascinating, almost unexpected outcome the source mentions. Through this whole process of working on their stated weaknesses, they actually discover hidden talents.
Yeah. The wife, who started exercising to support John, finds she actually has talent in sports. She ends up going to the gym 5 times a week and is even thinking about martial arts.
And John, who was initially focused just on getting healthier, rediscovers or maybe finds he has good cooking ability. Something he apparently knew from living alone, but maybe hadn't really used much in the relationship context.
So working on one set of goals together actually led them to uncover totally different strengths. It's pretty cool. And the source notes their progress is real. John's health is getting better. He's hitting the gym at least twice a week. The wife's cooking is better day by day with John's help.
And you see the wife's confidence in John as her cooking coach. She explicitly says she doesn't need a formal class because John knows many recipes and he can teach me. That mutual reliance, that trust built through actually doing things together, it's really palpable.
So what's the deeper lesson here, kind of hidden in this dialogue about cooking fails and going to the gym? It seems to be about how approaching personal weaknesses, maybe not in isolation, but as a shared project within a relationship, well, it can lead to real, tangible improvement. But it can also lead to uncovering these unexpected strengths you didn't even know were there in yourself or your partner. It turns individual challenges into this opportunity for team growth and mutual discovery. Makes you think, how might you benefit from inviting someone you trust into your own journey of self-improvement, whatever that might be?
A really powerful illustration of partnership in action, for sure.
So we started with these excerpts from a language learning transcript. Seemingly simple stuff. And what did we find? 3 distinct stories that, when you really look past the surface dialogue, reveal some pretty profound truths, I think.
Yeah, we saw how critical that varied, empathetic support is when you're overcoming the vulnerability of learning something new, how it can actually transform potential embarrassment into real progress.
And we explored how navigating those really strict environments, like Layla's, can surprisingly unveil unexpected kindness, or at least nuance, in the people setting the rules. It proves that sometimes perspective can be just as powerful as trying to change the circumstances themselves.
And we saw how admitting weaknesses and then tackling them together as a partnership, like John and his wife did, can lead not just to getting better in those specific areas, but also to the really exciting discovery of entirely new strengths and maybe even deeper trust.
It really is fascinating that these fundamental human experiences, these lessons about growth, are just embedded in material designed for, basic language practice.
And if we try to connect these threads, what's really striking to me is that in every single case, Millie messing up her words, Layla feeling totally suffocated by rules, the couple admitting, I'm not good at this vulnerability, was the essential first step.
That's a great point.
It was probably scary.
Yeah.
To be exposed like that or to admit a failing. But it seems like it was the necessary prerequisite. It had to happen first for the support or the shift in perspective or the partnership to kind of kick in and actually lead to growth.
That really raises an important question, maybe, for you listening right now. Think about the seemingly ordinary moments, the daily interactions in your own life. If you were to treat them like source material for a deep dive, looking past the obvious surface, what hidden lessons might be buried there? What unexpected strengths might they reveal, maybe in you or in the people you interact with every single day? What support systems are maybe already present, just waiting to be noticed or perhaps asked for?
Definitely something worth pondering.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.